I know when you're looking at the title of this video, you're thinking, ugh, not another one. I'd honestly have the same reaction. The video I was watching had the type of title that this one does. In this YouTube world that we're living in, you gotta have some sort of sparkling, shiny title to get the attention of the viewers you're trying to get to interact with your video. I say this video's title is about as shiny as a maggot-infested, dirt-ridden knife. It's like a dull knife. But that's the way it goes. But I'd like to give you a simple fact. About 90% of live service video games that are released today have the same general impact. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. The live service video game. And that is honestly the only way I can make an extremely clever way of kind of transitioning into the main point of this video. Today we are going to be talking about the live service, one of the hottest topics in today's gaming industry. And yes, you will notice I've added face cam for a nice little addition to the videos. So I will be doing a lot of forward motions of my hands toward the camera in order to increase viewer engagement with the video. So you better be ready for that, because it's going to be great. This isn't a video detailing the history of those games, but rather it's a video detailing specific games with a specific live service model that I personally find either positively impacting or negatively impacting to the gaming industry. And I hope that you will find this video interesting, and I want to encourage you to interact with the video in any way you see fit, whether it be by commenting or by liking the video, or maybe in the ultimate act of compassion, maybe hitting the subscribe button. And I hope you'll enjoy this one. We're going to be talking about the live service video game. Live service games, as far as I've seen, came into their full fruition in 2014 when Bungie split from Microsoft caused a massive outcry from gamers who thought Halo would never come back. Ironically enough, this is the same group of people who play Fortnite for fun. Bungie was a behemoth of a game company, thanks to the massive success of Halo Combat Evolved, and following that up with Halo 2 and 3, and then Bungie's swan song with Microsoft, Halo Reach. After Bungie left Microsoft, they began work on another IP, which was Destiny, an always online live service game. I remember when Destiny 2 was announced. I was actually really excited, though I never actually ended up playing the game because I didn't actually have the consoles to play the game. Yes, I did not have a 360 or an Xbox One or a PS4 or a PS3. Do with that what you will choose. I had a Wii and that was it. And then some handheld consoles, but Destiny 1 launched in 2014 to a lot of weirdness. The game launched with a really mixed reception. The game was praised for its next-gen graphics, especially on the Xbox One, and even on the PS3 it looked pretty good. And I believe it went on the PS4 later. I will have to double check on that, but it did eventually make its way to PS4, and it made its way to the major consoles. It never saw a PC release, which is kind of interesting, but regardless of the mixed launch, the game did, as per Bungie, it did actually receive really, really positive reception in terms of the player base that it managed to accrue over its lifetime. It was a game that was hailed for its really solid graphics and the really good gunplay. Unfortunately, that was about it. The game was kind of ridden with a lack of real understandable narrative, and the lack of content was pretty lacking in content on its launch. Even though, like I said, I didn't play it, but I remember the launch day being pretty underwhelming, but a success regardless, because it had Bungie's name behind it, and it had the publishing power of Activision to kind of push the game's sales forward. So that was an interesting time when Bungie was owned by Activision, huh? Anyways, that's where it all began, basically. I'm not saying that Destiny alone caused the live service game to become so big like it was. What I am saying is that it kind of created this catalyst that would eventually cause live service games to become really popular. You could debate day in and day out whether Call of Duty, Battlefield, and other massive multiplayer games were live service. In a sense, yes, they were. Their multiplayer components are live service, but in a very different manner, and I'm going to get into the differences between the live service model of modern games compared to the past games that had a more traditional model of bringing content to their viewers and to their players, rather. Destiny 2 launched in 2017, with the same general response being that there was a lack of content, the game was fairly bugged, but again, the game received a huge player base and got really lauded for its incredible next-gen graphics. But lest we not forget other live service games, if Destiny launched poorly, then Ubisoft's Tom Clancy's The Division launched broken. I remember playing a short demo of The Division in 2015 actually, and despite myself actually enjoying the gunplay quite a bit, it's the same story. I found the game's content to be extremely limited and the game's overall story to be to leave a lot to be desiring. You know, I desired a lot more from the story than what the game gave me, and the game's content was just holy crap horrible. And The Division was criticized, marked down a lot for its poor performance across the board on consoles, PC. The game released on Steam on PC. It was, in my memory, one of three games that would launch from that point on that would be released on Steam until Uplay introduced their own launcher. The game's poor performance was a part, sure, but the game's biggest downfall was its horrendously, hopelessly broken PvP. I remember being in the beta, and I think, if I remember correctly, this has been like 3 years ago already. I do vaguely remember the PvP in the beta, and yeah, it was broken. It was very broken. The Dark Zone was horribly unbalanced in every way, shape, and form possible. However badly it launched was the key to Ubisoft's success in the live service market. The Division was marketed as a game that would be always online and would receive content for many, many years to come. And the game's content was, sure, it was released it was released fairly significantly, but the game had the season pass, the microtransactions, and all that stuff that typically weighs Ubisoft games down nowadays. The Division was, in fact, one of Ubisoft's breakout hits, with the year before being the release of the highly anticipated Rainbow Six Siege, a first-person competitive tactical shooter that released The 2014 E3 demo was extremely impressive and showed off really solid next-gen graphics and a focus on teamwork that would carry on into the future of the game. But the game was another game that was touted as a live service. Following the success of Destiny 1, following that success, Ubisoft really went full on into the live service model, and it would continue to do this and does continue to do it to this day. Rainbow Six Siege offered a lot of operators at the beginning of its life cycle, but unfortunately, the game was received very poorly due to unbalanced operators and due to a sense of kind of carelessness in the development of the game. And the 2014 E3 demo, of course, the actual release of the game was heavily downgraded in its graphics. But then, Ubisoft tried to return to that live service model, and this is where something interesting comes into play. I mentioned that Destiny's live service was kind of underwhelming and overall fairly disappointing to most players of the game. Ubisoft had a real problem with the lack of success that Rainbow Six Siege had at its launch. with Destiny 1, there was this clear sense that Ubisoft wanted an early slice of the live service pie, so to speak. So, in a manner that is unbefit of modern Ubisoft, of 2019, 2018 Ubisoft, they went back, the developers at Ubisoft Montreal went back and fixed their game. They hunkered down for about a year, and in 2016, Rainbow Six Siege was changed from the ground up. The game was critically praised for its inclusion of new operators that followed heavily on the success of Overwatch in 2016, with the operators in Rainbow Six Siege being very closely compared to the heroes in Overwatch. So they organized themselves, got the new gameplay, they upgraded the graphics quite a bit, and still continue to do so today. I think they're done with that now, but the game still has a really good sense of this live service model that is, yes, that number. I don't know if you can see that, kid. It's 8. 8. That would have been much easier. 8 levels of monetization. Aside from pay to win, they monetized everything else except for pay to win. They didn't add any guns. The loot crate only drops one thing, and it's called an alpha pack, not a loot crate. It only drops one thing from it, and who knows what you'll get. You can spend real money on it, so it is technically, it is simulated gambling, but that's neither here nor there. But Rainbow Six Siege, in my sight, has evolved to become a really solid shooter and a really solid game. And the development process of the game has been clearly very tedious. And I think it's respectable of Ubisoft to have put so much effort into this game. At the end of the day, Rainbow Six Siege did manage to keep the players that originally came into the game, and through its operators and through the new content, the game brought in its all-time highest player count, with players staying to this day, 4 years after the game's release, because Ubisoft Montreal has done such a good job of reviving the game and of making sure that the game is balanced and the operators are interesting and unique. Every single map is free with no map DLCs to split the community. Free maps are a typical part of the modern live service model, to the point where even EA gives free maps to people. The big three got their hands on the live service. Ubisoft got their hands on it. Activision got their hands on it. Who are we missing? Rhetorical question. EA. They've had a ton of live service games, and debatably, only one of them has been a decently acceptable success. Because EA. Their first really major attempt at this live service model was in 2015's Star Wars Battlefront. Here's the funny thing. From what I remember, the game launched with 3 maps. And it launched with essentially no game modes. It had like 2 game modes or something. And the game was a critical and creative failure on all parts. The multiplayer was broken, the game was broken, the live service was broken. There was a $50 season pass, which was essentially the only way to get the new maps. There was one map that was released for free, and it was the Battle of Jakku, and it was on Jakku in 2015. And you can only guess why they released that for free, because it had the star power of Star Wars The Force Awakens behind it. Take what you will from that, but EA had a clever marketing strategy with that. But beyond that, their horrendously offensive $50 season pass was abominably horrible. So what did Star Wars Battlefront 2 do differently? Well, we are living in an almost hindsight now of Battlefront 2. I can remember when Battlefront 2 launched. Some people may not be able to remember because they may have been too young when it launched. But here we go again. EA's second attempt at a really major IP being a live service was Battlefront 2. And guess what? It was another huge failure. EA's attempt at making Star Wars into this live service trash is really, really deplorable in a way, because Star Wars is such a great franchise, and only EA could manage to find a way to absolutely drill their franchises into the ground. Now, you may be wondering, oh Gladys, you've been speaking really positively about this live service thing. You must be a proponent for live service games. Unsubscribe. Before you unsubscribe, let me reel you back in for a second. I am not a proponent of live service games. I actually hate them. I don't think they should exist. Like I said, I still don't support Battlefront 2 because of its lies at launch, its content at launch, or lack thereof. And Ubisoft, in their live service games, they've changed from Rainbow Six Siege. Now, Ubisoft sees what live service games have become, and now Ubisoft sees a big, fat, glowing pink dollar sign with like neon lights flashing from it, screaming at them to monetize their games in the worst way possible. Ubisoft's mantra now is less gameplay, more monetization. The actual game they develop now comes second, and the monetization store is actually what gets developed. The lines of code for the in-game store of Ubisoft games are perfectly written, carefully scraped through by the higher-ups to make sure that nothing in that code for the monetization is wrong. But when it comes to the gameplay, psh, whatever. Who cares, right? Who cares? It's just a video game. We need our monetization store in there. Hey Bill, how you doing with that monetization, huh? Recently released Black Ops 4 is one of the examples of when I started to realize how bad live service games can get. Black Ops 4 started out as every Activision game starts out, really good. It started out with literally no monetization. I'm not kidding you. Day one launch, no monetization. Aside from, you know, the $50 season pass. Thanks, Activision. And Treyarch, we can't leave the devs out of it. They had some part in it. They want to get their money. Activision wants more of their money. So they put in a $50 season pass with actual maps. In 2018, Activision still saw the live service as, oh, we can sell maps for money, because why not screw over our player base? When Ubisoft and EA are over here being like, Activision's in the Neolithic age with its horrendous microtransactions and the season pass that locked 12 multiplayer maps and I think 3 classified zombies experiences. It doesn't even matter because zombies was trash broken beyond belief. But Black Ops 4 truly showed off how greedy Activision can honestly get. Most games that are live services are, at best, serviceable, and they service you with microtransactions. They service you with horrendous levels of monetization. They service you with lack of content. They service you with an unfinished game. They service you with bugs that won't get fixed until a day 2 patch that's 50 gigabytes. Fallout 76. Overwatch and Battlefield 5 are two of my I know you're allowed to disagree with me, okay? I personally think that Overwatch and Battlefield 5 have decent monetization plans. I still think that monetization shouldn't even exist. Just grind for the guns, give us skins that we can just buy, which both games do that anyways, and give us skins that we can grind for anyways without having to buy them. And for the love of all that is good and holy, give maps for free. That train has left the station. It left the station in like 2012, probably. The pay for map stuff is so archaic. It could be found in like a Roman mythology book at this point. It's so archaic. I bought plenty of stuff for Overwatch. I haven't bought anything on Battlefield 5, but I like Battlefield 5 as a game. because I think DICE did a good job with it, unlike Battlefront 2. But DICE did get their live service model mostly right for Battlefield 5, even though Battlefield 5 is a horrendous failure on the side of map releases and content releases, and the miserably failed and flawed Firestorm Battle Royale, which now DICE has really no reason to care about doing Battle Royales. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is now within my examples of the worst games to release. It released with time savers. Just like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Ubisoft live service games are now live service servicing you with ways to service yourself to not play the game they're servicing you. Do you understand what I just said? Let me repeat that. Ubisoft is allowing you to pay them a salary of monetization to not play the game that you already paid $60 for. I know countless people have already said that, but let me just repeat it. You can pay. Now you can't because they took away the microtransactions, because Ubisoft are a bunch of little sniveling cowards when it comes to their live service, open world, third-person shooter, bullcrap garbage. An interesting article came up yesterday. I'm recording this a day after this article came out. An interesting article came up, and I'm going to link it, and in the description will be the link to the full article. The title is simply this: Save yourself $20. I just leveled a Destiny 2 alt to 900 power level in 15 minutes. Here's the context, and this is where I started to see why I should not, and why you should not support Destiny 2. For one, I think the live service model is just generally a really piss poor attempt at making a game, at making a story. Because stories and live service go together like a sword into flesh. They shouldn't go together, but they oddly do go together well. I shouldn't mention Anthem, because everyone mentions Anthem, but at the same time, I probably should. Anthem is a similar story to Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and it is one of those live service games that I now include of my list of games that is the reason gaming is turning to garbage now. The narrative was sloppy and half-baked, and just generally, BioWare didn't really seem to care, and I just don't think they really do care continually to this day. I just think they've kind of lost interest in Anthem, and they're moving on to Dragon Age 4, which is totally going to be really good. I bet you're looking forward to that, huh? BioWare has no excuse. I don't care if this isn't old BioWare. There's no excuse, no matter what BioWare it is. If it's old BioWare, current BioWare, future BioWare, there's no excuse. And the live service roadmap that games follow now is broken, and if you manage to somehow keep your promises, congratulations, you're one of like the 0.5% of live service games that actually keep up with their roadmap. Right now, it is a hot thing. It's essentially an excuse to launch your game half-baked and promise it'll be better within 10 years. Like Anthem so famously said. It wants to be a 10-year service like Destiny. Destiny hasn't even been out for 10 years. And they say they want it to be like Destiny. Okay, BioWare. Whatever you say. We've got some fun times coming up in the industry, don't we? And boy, you better best believe, we are only getting started with this fun. Next week's video essay is going to be a banger, and I think you are going to enjoy it. But that's it for this video essay. I hope you all enjoyed that one. I went off of my script a little bit, but I enjoyed that one. It's always nice to kind of lay the ground bare and speak just simple facts about what has been going on. And I think these video essays are going to be a lot more efficient at giving you all an organized look at certain things. And we'll see what happens with this series, but I am really passionate about this series. I love writing these scripts and talking about it. And Basecamp. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.